And let me swap over here. Our very first panel member / guest. I want to say panel member so that he's more of a regular occurrence in the Geek studio. Is Tom Magill.
Hello.
Welcome along, sir.
Good to be here.
Where we discuss all things geek in the world. And today, a discussion with Tom yielded a very interesting question, Dan, that I think we need to ponder it beyond just this one show.
Ponder beyond.
The definable difference between a geek and a nerd.
Yes.
Because I believe one can be one while still being the other, but I'm not sure whether it goes both directions.
We may need Venn diagrams.
Yes. So that's quite... It's got meta written all over it.
That's a question for the ages. So do we have any thoughts on the difference?
Well, I think I made the mistake of actually offering some nerd content.
Yes.
And
As opposed to geek
as
content.
opposed to geek content, yes.
Ah,
I was
right.
thinking, well, if I'm on the show tonight, is there anything I should be preparing?
Uh-huh.
Here are some things. And apparently that was too nerdy. It's the wrong category.
It certainly... Well, not too nerdy, but it was distinctly nerdy. I
Yes.
think it was science.
It was science and astronomy or something
Which
like
is
that.
still... The geeks will dabble in relation to their interest in other things sometimes more than just pure love of science. But it still exists. My definition that we need to workshop, we need to find out if I'm even accurate, because I would like to know. My definition is more, it's an interest in something to a much greater degree than the norm, is the geek. So you can get geeky about sport. You can be a sports geek.
Yeah.
You can be film geek.
Yep.
That's the way I define it, but I could be totally wrong. Does the interweb define it at all?
All right, you look up geek, I'll look up nerd.
Nerd. Well, we may be interesting to actually think up our own definitions first.
Well, you got mine. I'm on record.
Well, I don't know. Oh, okay. I don't know how I tell them apart. I think nerd is an older word referring more to an outcast than a geek.
Yeah, the classic nerdy idea is the bespectacled, buck-toothed child who runs around with a pocket calculator and always has a pen on him.
Yeah, and so is a bit of a fool, right? An outcast and a fool. That's
Yeah.
a nerd.
Socially awkward part
But
of
a geek,
part of it.
I feel, is more competent, right?
Generally, yeah, and certainly you can get away with calling a big guy with tattoos a geek if he gets into Star Trek and in this day and age that's definitely more the norm than not. But I don't think you can get away with calling the same guy a nerd.
All right. So look,
There's definitely
So there's
distinctions.
something's there, isn't there?
Yep.
Cool.
So did you get the geek?
okay. So I've got the geek, you've got the nerd.
I got the nerd.
So read us out the nerd.
A foolish or contemptible person who lacks social skills or is boringly studious. So that fits.
Okay.
That
Yep.
fits. Yeah.
Yep.
It kind
Boringly
of fits the
studious.
school environment, really.
Yeah.
So the first definition of a geek, an unfashionable or socially inept person. That's almost the same.
Well, this lacking social skills is the same.
Aha. Engage in or discuss computer-related tasks obsessively or with great attention to technical detail.
Yeah.
The computer related thing's interesting because there's that would indicate that maybe we've borrowed the geek thing. Maybe people have borrowed it a little bit, and just because of the level of interest and passion about something, and bent it over to their.
All right. If we're going to geek / nerd out, we have to actually go to the etymology of it, right?
Nice.
Is it entomology or
Etymology. Entomology would be insects.
That's right.
Which is right up your alley, is it not?
I don't like insects up my alley, but
Nice. So, what's your? Tell me, what is your exact degree in?
I've got
Scientific degree.
It's generally just a master's degree in biology, and I majored in zoology and botany. So pretty much the classic, basic stuff. But then my thesis was in insect immunology. So that's where the entomology. Entomology.
When
comes
you
in.
made a decision to study that, where was it? Where was it going to take you? Where did you see yourself? What veterinary?
I think like so many, we work in computer graphics, and 80% of our students want to be modelers and character concept artists. And in biology, 80% of the students who start that want to become marine biologists. And I'm a, keen scuba diver, and one of the reasons I love it here in Australia, by my accent you hear that I'm not originally from here, but as many Germans who live in Australia are scuba divers, and we love the marine environment. And so as I always like so many students thought marine biology that's where it's at, but that's very popular and very difficult to get into. And during my studies it didn't really take me there, because I was made the mistake of going to the wrong university for the first place. You don't study that in the middle of Germany.
Yeah.
We're not good by sea.
Was the class size generally small?
It was huge at the start of the first semester, and then it dropped off, and then by the end, after 8 semesters, you can sort of half the people that actually graduate. Yeah,
it's an expensive field of study. You put the word marine in front, because I've owned boats, right? So I'm just guessing that it's an expensive field of study, because if you put the word marine in front of a bolt, you've tripled its cost.
The big advantage, I think, is knowing that a lot of these marine biologists, or people who've trying to make a living with their marine naval knowledge, work on cruise ships as part of the token zoologist on board, and they take people out onto the reef and fish out a starfish and explain starfishy things about them, or show slideshows on side of the boat. I've got friends in my other hobby is astronomy, and I've got friends in the Astronomical Society who regularly get invited to come on a cruise, because the operators want to have an astronomer on board who brings out a telescope and shows the people Venus and gives talk on bad weather inside of the boat.
That's such a great idea.
Yeah. And they go, he takes his wife, and she pays a little fee, and he gets for free, and they travel the world on cruise ships.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's a deep degree of knowledge about the subject matter.
You can't make a living with that, but you sure
can have fun.
You can make a good holiday.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, absolutely. And that holiday can just go forever.
Yeah.
As a lot of people find when they go and work in the Whitsundays as a barman. They're still there 32 years later. Just keep rolling the holiday. Not me. If I was European based and studied marine biology, the last place I'd want to go to, knowing what I know and being the water coward that I am, I would never go to Australia. Because sooner or later I'd have to get in the water.
Yeah.
And something chased me out of the water a long time ago, and I haven't been back.
Was that in Queensland?
What was it?
That was down here at a place called Gorilla Bay.
Oh, yeah.
You know where it is?
Yeah, I've been there lots of times.
Just north of Tomakin. Down the rocks, we'd snorkel.
Snorkel.
Yeah. And, I had a keeper net full of fish, me and another mate, no buddy system. And I looked up out of the water because I hadn't seen him for a while, and he's clambering up the rocks.
Yep.
And I'm sort of treading water, looking at him and said, "What's up?" And he didn't answer. He just went like this and just waved me in. One hand movement. Okay. And I knew instantly, because I grew up with this guy, I knew instantly that there was something wrong. So I plunged my head in the water, and maybe 3 or 4 meters away from me was the keeper bag being torn apart by a tiger shark.
Oh.
And it was a very large tiger shark.
No, that's scary.
And I walked on water. I mean, when I say large, Dan, like that's the girth of it.
Yeah, right. Wow.
It's like a tree.
Yeah.
And it was just so worrying what I saw. And the whole time, it probably only took me 7-8 seconds to get to shore.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole time, man, it felt like time stood still, and I knew this thing was about to bite me the whole way in. Yeah. And I've never been back in the ocean deeper than that.
The scary thing is that your buddy was already ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I could have left him behind.
If he's behind you, then chances are better.
All right, Dan, I'll let you lead off this week, because I've got a subject to finish us off that's a little bit more conversational than some of the stuff I've got before. So I think which could erupt into just chaos.
Okay, awesome.
Let me swap you over here.
To finish off our previous discussion, nerd, nobody knows where it came from. Greek comes from German.
Geek.
What's
Geek,
that?
sorry, Greek. Geek. comes from German. Geck.
Geck is a German word for
Fool.
being crazy, jumping around.
Yeah. Geck,
That's
fool.
Geck.
Well, there it is there,
From
right?
Jamaica origin.
Geck.
Wow.
So there you go.
There you go.
Awesome.
All right, so in the last couple of podcasts, over the last couple of podcasts, we were talking about computer games, various different things, and the topic of No Man's Sky had come up, and Elite Dangerous, and we were talking a little bit about those, and so the last, the last of the big three, I think, is Star Citizen. So I kind of wanted to start off a little bit with Star Citizen. So as a bit of an explanation for people who don't know much about Star Citizen, it's a computer game, space combat computer game that's been crowdfunded, and it took off, right? So they're up to $140 million or something or other. It's the largest ever crowdfunded enterprise, certainly the largest ever crowdfunded computer game.
Just incidentally, where does that stand in relation to a AAA budget?
That's definitely up there. Some of them, I think AAA budgets will be maybe 70 million, but they could
That's what
go
I
up to
thought.
like 300 million or something
really?
like that. So
Really?
they can really push up quite a bit higher.
Especially if there's a lot of new tech involved.
Yeah, yeah. But 140 million, I think that's where they're at the moment. And if you think about it, actually, comparing it to movies, that's a big budget summer blockbuster movie, which is interesting.
It's
actually to compare the
It's
two.
a crazy amount of money.
Yeah. So, this is the guy who heads it up. Dang it, what's his name? Anybody remember?
And it's not Braben.
No, that's David Braben's the other one.
It's
Star Citizen.
it eludes me.
All right. Doesn't
you
matter.
You go
right
ahead
for
and
the
I'll
moment.
find it.
Yeah, okay, cool. So they started up a while ago. Now, when I first heard about it, there was loads of games coming out. There was Elite, for example, that was sort of happened at the same time. Now, Elite generated $5 million. And this generated ultimately, at the end, $140 million. Now, what I was witnessing when I was watching them come out was that Elite was up and running and they had their game going much faster than Star Citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was also seeing from Star Citizen was feature creep. What
Yes.
I perceived as feature creep.
It's Chris Roberts, by the way.
Chris Roberts. There you go. Thank you very much. Right, Chris Roberts. So,
and feature creep, like that, you're underselling it.
Yeah.
Like they've literally tried to shove, or there's at least 3 games that they've shoved into it, and there's probably more in there if you look deeper.
One of the good things about Star Citizen is it's always had this open development. So they've been very, very open, like way more open than a AAA game, where it's actually this like X-level ultra secret where, they have guards at the doors. These guys, they're very, very, very open. So they discuss their progress, they discuss their milestones, they discuss what's going to be in the game, what's coming up. Mm-hmm. And this is where the feature creep I was suspecting was coming in, is that they'd have geeks or nerds, depending on your definition of choice, constantly sending questions in. And this is kind of good, is that Chris Roberts would answer those questions, but he always seemed to be answering in the positive.
Yeah.
All right, so they'd say, are you going to have beards and mustaches in the game? And Chris Roberts says, oh, yes, we've got plans for beards and mustaches. We'll put those in the game for sure. And then another person would say, so you're going to be able to wax your mustache in the game? And he says, oh, yes, we've got the plans for waxing mustache mechanic. Yes, it'll be Control M on the keyboard. It's going to be awesome. So it seemed like there was all these things getting piled into the game, and I felt a little bit suspicious, actually, that they were just promising the world, and it was all going to collapse in a big heap.
Yep.
Right? Particularly because Elite Dangerous was out, and they had a working spaceship game with shooting and flying in between planets and stuff.
That was impressing people.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Did you? Another thing, I guess, that affected because I'm the same. I was dubious.
Mm-hmm.
They had some GameCon, game conference type events, that didn't go well.
Mm.
The tech, like a room full of screaming
Yeah,
fans.
I remember some of those.
And the tech went down, and I just seem to remember there was more than one
Mm.
where he was standing in front of a room with this wry grin, chuckle, development, and it just seemed very awkward, and then it never quite. And just when you thought, yeah, this is cool, like he's leaving the spaceship, he's free floating through, and then it'd glitch out and crash. I could close that video and go and jump in Elite Dangerous, and it was working perfectly. And to me, that I was the same. I was sort of added to my suspicion of where they are.
Yeah, so they'd put a first-person shooter into the game as well as the space thing, and then there's sort of combat, and there's a persistent universe, as they say. So objects exist in the universe, and they can move around into different locations, and they still exist. Can be passed from player to player, that type of thing. So this comes along in 2016, and one of the things that they did was they switched to, and I don't know too much about this, enough to be dangerous, as they say, but they switched to a 64-bit system, an operating system, a 64-bit coordinate system. They're using the CryEngine, and I think the CryEngine was, I don't know, not 64, it was 8 or 16-bit or something or other. So what that means to me, and I only know enough to be dangerous, is that the coordinate locations of any object could be written as an 8-bit number.
Yep.
So the X position, the Y, and the Z position, if there's coordinates in space, could be an 8-bit number. So that means that the maximum size of the universe would literally be defined by that.
You can top out. What are we talking? 16 million?
It's something like that. Something like that.
24-bit to 16.
So because
is it?
24-bit, well...
There's millions, billions, and trillions with the colours, and I always thought there was 8, 16.
How many zeros are we talking?
We'll see. We're definitely getting into the,
But they've upped the stakes. That's a big big leap.
So they've gone up to 64-bit. So that means, to the best of my poor understanding, is that they've got much more room to play with.
Yeah.
So something can be more finely, precisely decided on its position, essentially.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So this video here is them showing off their essentially their new tech. So I'm not actually going to play it, but I'll just stop on some different points. And this is important because for the development. So I'm actually rewinding here. So they've got a couple of guys that are playing the game, and then Chris Roberts is going to be directing what they're doing. You
can tell there's an artist involved here. Look at the lighting.
Yeah. Well, they're red and blue.
Yeah.
So the character starts up in a space station, and you walk through the space station, and then you get on a spaceship. Then what they're doing here is they're bringing up the navigation system.
Yep.
Okay. And then they're going to fly to another planet in the solar system.
Yep.
Now, this is without any loading screens and without any instancing.
It's all real time.
And it's all real time.
Yep.
Okay. So remember, if you had a game, let's call it an old school game, you would be in an instance.
Yep.
And that means that you'd be in the room.
Yeah.
And then when you went out to the space dock, there'd be a door would open and there'd be a little loading time.
Yeah.
Then your character would be loaded into the new server with that.
Smart game developers would put a decompression sequence or something to hide it.
To hide it, exactly. Yeah. Load times, to hide the load times. Same with when you're in your spaceship. And
to get to the next instance.
Yeah, so when you were ever in one instance, another person would not be in that instance with you.
Yeah.
So there'd be this sort of barrier.
Yep.
Okay, so they haven't left this same instance, right?
Yeah.
So they're now in this space thing here. They then can fly over to the planet next door, and apparently you can fly on slow speed, or you can go into hyperjump or whatever. Hyperjump takes you a little time, but for the geeks and nerds that want to test it, Chris Roberts says you can actually, and it will take you exactly 7 weeks to fly there, whatever it is. So anyway, they go over to the other planet, and there's 2 guys in this spaceship.
Yep.
They go down onto the planet.
Oh, that's right, there is 2. So they're sharing the cockpit.
Yeah, so there's 2 people here.
And you can, from memory, have one of the players can fly it while the other one is asleep on the rack in the back.
Yeah, or in the turret,
Yeah.
shooting or
Yeah.
jumping out. As
And so far, still all the same instance.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
So no loading or real time.
So this planet is also procedurally generated, and we were
Yeah.
talking about procedurally generated stuff versus the
Yeah.
sort of hand-created stuff.
Hmm.
This was an interesting part of the video where Chris made a bit of a joke about emergent gameplay, and you were talking about things going wrong. What actually happened was that they landed the spaceship on the thing,
But the ramp was a little too high.
Yeah, so that would have been a bit of a killer for the rest of his presentation if they couldn't get the dude back in the spaceship.
Yeah, I think he had to take off and move forward a bit and then land.
Yeah. So that was a bit of fun. And then they arrive at this space station on another planet. And this is the I'll turn the sound off, but this is probably the most important bit. And that is once they get up to this statue. So one of the guys has jumped out and he's inside the space station. And they have a look at this statue.
That's right.
And then in a second, when he looks out the window, there's the spaceship that he arrived in.
Yeah, with his mate at the wheel.
With his mate at the wheel. And they're going to do picture in camera, and they're going to swap back and forth, and one of the guys is going to
And
wave.
it's real time. Look,
And
now
it's
they're
real
sitting
time.
next to each other, right? Yeah. So there's a bit of web
So he's
lag,
waving,
probably,
right? He's waving
down the
character.
track. Yep.
Okay, so that's to prove that it's not in a separate instance, and so the crowd's going wild in the background here. So that's the main thing that I suppose, and okay, I wanted to show you was that
Just quickly, you know what that means?
What?
We can all go and meet at this pub and watch races outside the window of actual players racing in the same instance.
Yeah,
And we can cheer and commentate them. And wow, that's awesome.
So it's pretty crazy, and it from what they were saying and from what the little I know about it, it seems like it's pretty groundbreaking technology that they're actually coming up with.
Yeah.
He was using words like this is the programmer's baby.
Yeah.
He used words like that, which means that these nerds are really they're going pretty hardcore. They're dreaming up crazy things. They've got somebody who'll give them $1 million to sit down there and solve this problem.
Yep.
And they're
literally
doing it.
money's no option sort of thing. Because the checkbook's still open, isn't it? Like, it continues to be crowdfunded.
Oh, yeah. They're still making
Because
money.
they sell ships.
Yeah, that's right.
Some guys bought every ship there is, and I think it's over 30 grand.
Easily. Some of they've actually got capital ships you can buy. This is
crazy
like
shit.
multiple $1,000s worth of virtual capital ships.
Like real money. We're talking real money. You've got to drop your own money, because that goes into the crowdfunding, right, to get to buy those ships.
Now, I'm such a miser that I'd never do anything like that, right?
Yeah.
But some people do, and I don't know. It's kind of like it's sort of coming together, So I started off by saying that it was lots of feature creep and there's lots of crazy stuff, but they're pulling it together.
Man, that's when I saw that the other day. That's space sim porn, isn't it?
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
everything you've ever wanted. Without and I remember I got hooked. Well, no, I probably got hooked. X-wing TIE fighter days, right? X-wing Alliance and that sort of stuff. It was fantastic to be able to dogfight in with no horizon, and it was just really cool. And those games you would like, you love. You always speak of that flight dynamic that is more plain than
Oh, look,
Apollo 15.
again, if you want to talk about nerding and geeking out, when the spaceship is going into the atmosphere, so all these atmospheric effects are starting to, the re-entry thing, and kind of almost in an offhand way, and this shows you the power of nerds and geeks. Chris Roberts says, "Oh yes, and by the way, the spaceships, the shapes of the spaceships have been flight modeled, so there's actual aerodynamics. They've got some sort of aerodynamics, and there'll be lift in the game. So if your spaceship's a box, it's going to fly like a box. But if it's got wings and it's actually got a tail, it'll actually fly in the atmosphere better. So, yeah, they're kind of leaving no, they're doing it properly. And what he said also was that, he wanted to have an object. You could pick up an object from over in one of that space station where they started. You could physically put that object in your spaceship and it would sit there on the floor.
That's right.
You'd fly all the way over to the thing, put it down somewhere else in here, and it'd be there, and your friend could come and pick it up, and he could do something
I
with
think
it.
that's what they do later in the video, isn't it? When they take that motorcycle or the hovercycle out of the salvaged spaceship
Mhm.
and they park it inside their thing and
That's awesome.
fly away with it.
Mm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you play Freelancer?
No.
See, for me, Freelancer had way too many of those loading screens you talk about, and the instances were so noticeable, jumping from one to the other. But a similar thing where you would land. Wasn't there some kind of paths crossing with Braben and Roberts? Didn't they both have something to do with? No.
They both made previous
What was the one they turned into a movie? Wing Commander.
Wing Commander.
That's
yeah.
Roberts.
Yeah.
So Roberts' lineage is
It's got
Wing
Mark
Commander.
Hamill in it. With Mark Hamill.
And
Yeah.
Braben's lineage is
Elite.
Elite from
Yeah.
1982.
Yeah. And kind of they're both moving in the same
Yeah,
space.
they're potentially arch nemesis, but
Yeah.
I think they actually cooperate, don't they?
Well, I don't know if they cooperate, but they certainly don't fight each other.
Yeah, they're not.
kind of thing.
Yeah, they're not sticking it to one another. But I got a feeling, man, this thing is probably going to kick Elite's ass.
But you can see, well, that's what I was sort of saying, is that I think Elite came out of the starting blocks and like was sprinting really hard,
Yeah.
but then started to get a bit tired,
Yeah.
and the slow burn of Star Citizen might be catching them up.
Well, if the game looks anything like that video,
The scary thing is the complexity. Because where's the... At what point will this get boring
yeah,
if they don't have variety? So you talked about No Man's Sky a few weeks ago and how it's all procedural based and every single planet is different, but that isn't enough. The fact that they're just different is still the same. It's just a different kind of the same. You go to a planet and
Yeah.
sure there's different animals, but it doesn't make it any more valuable because the next planet will again have different animals.
yeah.
So
And even the
here's
difference becomes not monotonous.
yes.
Because a range gets established, and a certain, you start to see the boundaries and work out, okay, maybe this side, or maybe that side, but there's still boundaries because it keeps changing.
So where's the gameplay? It looks beautiful. This game has because I'm a visual person and I love beautiful art,
Yeah.
and it's got my mouth watering.
It looks great. Did you see when they came through the atmosphere?
Yeah.
And it was all
Yeah.
heating up and the...
I
Trying to put us
saw
back on the...
a talk about a year ago by one of their concept artists by the name of Gulmurk Basin. And he is, he designs the spaceships for, final approval.
Mhm.
But what he designs in is in 3D.
For this?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
For Star Citizen. And he actually builds them in 3D with all the detail. And they look like those final ships.
They're stunning to look at.
And he makes them in modules, and so he does 3 or
Yeah.
4 or 6 or 8 different variations
yeah.
of the same spaceship.
Yeah.
But they're essentially 3D models at the quality of the game. So when he gets approval for one, essentially, they could just take it.
I love the way
It's brilliant.
they present new ships like a car dealer. So it's more like a Mitsubishi ad than it is a spaceship ad. It's a marketing exercise from a fictitious company that's selling hardware, sort of thing. It's selling a vehicle, and they, and just the spiel and the voiceover stuff that they do. It's so authentic and cool.
There's another thing that they mentioned. They didn't give specifics, but this is something that I think is really important. Is they mentioned making things in the game that would make YouTubers more easily able to produce video content from it. Because you can imagine if
Like
you want to do
third-person
marketing,
cameras and stuff.
yeah. We were talking about this before, and this is one of the biggest failings I think of. Well, not one of the biggest failings, but a
I think
failing
it's a failing.
of Elite Dangerous
Yeah.
is that they blocked that. They blocked that. You think about World of Warships. They've got previews. It automatically records a preview for you of the game you just played.
Yeah.
And then any person who's on YouTube can just grab a hold of that, put it together into a video, and you've got entertaining video to watch plus advertising for your game.
And
Instant.
I believe Braben actually took a stance on it. Like when the question was asked, his attitude was, "I don't want to take away the immersion."
That's right. Yeah.
And that makes sense right up until the point that someone wants to make some cool videos.
yeah.
Because to do it, you've got to leave pilot mode. You've got to type in a hack to actually go into programmer mode where you're viewing what's going on and you can't control the ship while it's happening.
Yeah.
So there's some guys online like Obsidian Ant and those sorts of guys. They make video. I don't know how they make those videos.
But they all have to be kind of first person, unless you can sort of somehow hook up with a friend who's going to record you and then send you the video, and then you have to splice it together. So,
isn't it funny that this video is pretty much what Elite Dangerous is trying to do with this season release, with the Horizons. Planetary landings, share the cockpit. There's passenger contracts. There's a whole bunch of stuff that when you look at it, if we were to jump forward in time to at the end of this season, this Elite Dangerous Horizon season, you would have a game that sort of looks like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Coincidence?
But they don't have the money behind them. They're down to $4 million and change.
Yeah.
And Chris Roberts is accelerating off to $140 million and change.
Yeah.
Or it's something like that. So
that thing looked awesome. I mean, the lighting was beautiful. The textures were beautiful.
all the shaders are freaking amazing.
As I said, it's mouth-watering. But what has me excited is that, as you said, cockpit sharing. You know, I can play the game. I love playing computer games with friends.
Yeah, same here.
And being able to, get picked up, go into the spaceship, fly to a mission.
Yeah.
And be the rear gunner or just do missions together.
Absolutely.
Is if that gameplay works really well, especially if there's missions that you can do or contracts that you have to fulfill that you can't do by
on
yourself.
your own. Yeah.
This is what's going to make the longevity increase, is when you produce a sandbox and you just fill it with toys.
Yeah.
There's spaceships and there's cars and there's vehicles and you can get in and out of them, and there's little places to hide, and you've got guns and you've got stuff to buy and sell.
Yeah.
Job done. And then people can just
introduce scale. Like
a lot of scale,
the final ingredient is scale. Like you've got super big ships and little tiny ships. You've got super big planets and little tiny planets and space stations, and you've got all these different possibilities. But it's that instance thing that really excites me. That excites me. I think we've got it right in game dev when you have to find a place for your character to go and sleep because it's in the game while you're out of the game. You know what I mean? Like your avatar and can get mugged and murdered and whatever. You've got to go inside. You've got to protect yourself while you're not in the game. The only way to do that is for it to be one big consistent instance that everyone shares.
It can be very funny because I play with friends over in Europe, and they're in a different time zone. So often they will, we will play when it's evening here and it's their lunch break or something. So it'd be funny that I'm asleep in the ship, and in here in Australia I'm asleep, but they're playing in Germany. There's this guy constantly lying in the bed there that they can't wake, and no matter what happens, this guy's
absolutely. And you would have have a unique advantage, couldn't you? Because you could run 24/7 hauling and 24/7 services.
Well, see, this is what builds even better sort of gameplay experiences, is when people start to group up and then they make guilds and things outside of the game, and then they all get together and do stuff. EVE Online, had lots of famous stories about those type of things happening,
and that's
and people get right into that.
If we can, I think outer space is probably the best place to try to get that right. Can you remember I think it was the third Matrix movie. It could have been the second. They announced this game that they were going to make, and it was the real world Matrix. It was like it was a city, it was an entire city, and you could literally go up to the 16th floor of a skyrise building and kick a door down and be in that room, sort of thing. And they promised this thing that it was 24/7 multi. I didn't know any better at the time. I wasn't. I didn't understand computer games to the same degree that I do now, and I just accepted it. It was totally impossible. Like, it was never going to work. At most, you might have had 16, maybe 20 people that could play it. They announced this immersive big world where anyone on the street is another person in another country. They announced it like it was a real thing, and it was actually released on the DVD. It was one of the extra features on one of the DVDs.
And this that would have been the early 2000s when Second Life was big.
Did you ever check out
I think
Second
it
Life?
predated Second Life.
Did you ever check that out? Did you ever check
Yeah,
that
I
out?
tried it once. I think it comes standard, or I don't know. Is there a PlayStation equivalent? I definitely went into a PlayStation version through the PS3 account. There was something built in, and it was you could be a DJ in the world and actually play at a club that people were in there, and everyone was a real person.
So this was early 90s. When I heard about it...
No.
No?
PlayStation 3.
I'm talking about Second Life.
Oh, no.
No, that was early 2000s.
Was it? 2000s. Okay.
Not much going on in the early 90s, man.
Yeah, I suppose.
It was all arcade.
When I went into Second Life, I was doing teaching at school, and I saw it looked awful. It was like the lowest poly, 600 poly characters with the worst rigging ever, and the most sparse, empty boxes that was like a nightclub.
It was all detached. It was like, you've got enough credits to buy a cat.
Now, it was...
It's like, I want a cat.
In some ways, it was pretty good for its time. Probably not as good as something like, the original Half-Life or something like that. But... I'd heard that people were spending $15,000 on
of real money,
real estate in Second Life at that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
there's some crazy shit that goes on with games. Have you heard about that farm simulator stuff? There's a guy murdered in England because some other guy wanted his farm stock or something in the game. It's like a simulator farm something. I remember when I saw it. The levels of obsession are crazy.
Wow. Yeah, I just read that Second Life, which was launched in June 2003.
2003. I was
2003, but it's still going strong. It's still 1 million regular users.
1 million regular users.
Yeah, as of 2013.
Wow,
2013 is it?
I'm sure the art's...
There's some shit going on in there.
I'm sure it's much better now. I'm sure.
Because it's a free-for-all, isn't it? Like, there's no police. There's nothing. You can do anything in that world.
Well, I suppose so, but I don't think there's like guns and stuff. It's not like it's like Second Life. It's like social media.
Yeah.
It's like, Facebook, 3D Facebook or something.
It's a confidence suit for the socially inept.
Yeah, for nerds. And I think it also spawns a lot of businesses where people make hats and skins and stuff, and they said,
I don't know. There might have been Second Life through. I'll have a look, because I tried it, and it was this weird array of platforms where you'd go sort of over into that building over there that was on a platform.
Oh yeah, because I think there's some user created stuff, and so people create
a nightclub.
Yeah, and it's made out of some bizarre thing that doesn't make much sense to anybody except the person who created it.
And the animation loops make you feel uneasy.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some images, and it doesn't. You got to make concessions if you have such a huge game. You have to make concessions in texture quality and polygons.
1 million regular users,
but
man. That's big numbers.
This Star Citizen seems to.
Did you find out whether? Remember, I said the other week that we need to have a look and see if this is true. I thought the plan was, when they pitched it as a crowdfunding, the plan was that they were going to build a game called Squadron 42 while they built the big world that is the full-blown Star Citizen. And if you buy your way into Squadron 42, it's effectively you're doing military service. So the whole storyline and everything is you're actually buying into military service. And like the Roman times, you could earn citizenship, because a citizen was an elite, where they got benefits. So to be a citizen in Star Citizen, you had to buy your way in, which costs a lot of money, 100 like crazy money for a game, $120, $130 or something stupid, or you could fly your way in as a military squadron pilot.
I think the latter is Squadron 42 is like a prelude. So I think what will happen is that when you buy Star Citizen, and you're not one of these early Uber backers, you buy Star Citizen, you'll first be presented with Squadron 42.
Okay.
That'll show you how to fly a spaceship and where the bad guys are.
Do some
and,
missions.
Yeah, and you
Okay.
pick things up, put them down, talk to people.
Yeah.
And then you've graduated from your thing, and then they cut you loose into the world.
Cool. Nice.
So, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that I'm going to be flying around, and in order for that person that flies past me to be in that ship, they went through some training. Like they can't. I like the idea that you can't be a citizen in this world. You can't exist in this world until you've gone through your learners.
This is one of the complaints for people who play World of Tanks and World of Warships when you buy a Tier 8 premium
ship. Yeah.
So the progression in those games is that it's such an uphill battle to get to the Tier 10 final vehicles that you've probably played 40,000 games before you reach that level. And then there are these...
You can tell which people have... Yeah, you see premium ship driven by somebody who's only had 1,000 games.
Yeah.
They play it in a different kind of reliability.
And you want it that way, don't you? You want to play against people that are...
Yeah.
You know, that have the same similar rating and understanding of...
No, it's kind of good for the game. It ensures that there's a population of people up at the higher level and a population down at the lower level kind of thing.
But on the other hand, how can you end up in a Tier 8 game if you want to try out some larger commodities and as a newcomer you want to see if that's for you? It's great that they do offer that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can buy your way into a big ship.
Yeah, and I mean, the risk is higher.
Yeah, you suck at it.
Yeah.
But you can be there, play with the big guys, you get sunk.
It's crazy. And just to think that we're playing games now where you buy insurance for your ship.
Yeah.
Because if it goes and you don't have insurance and you don't have enough money, you're out. You're out. You got to buy back in. Yeah. Like you literally, if you can't buy a ship, you're out.
Are you saying that that's the case and stuff?
Well, no. That's based on the model that I've seen. Yeah, like it's a cash commodity. It's a cash environment, isn't it? Like you get credits when you buy the game. You get a certain amount of credits, but if you mismanage your credits, it's the same in Elite Dangerous. I'm pretty sure Elite, if you're broke, they still give you a sidewinder, do they?
Yeah, you can still get the base ship basically,
which has got nothing on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to pay for insurance to.
So yeah, if you don't have enough for the insurance cost to cover the cost and you lose the ship, you're in trouble.
You're fucked if you've spent 14 million credits or something like that. That's a big investment.
So the insurance
of time.
is done with game credits as well.
Yeah, in Elite it's done with game credits, but this game allows real cash purchases.
Allows, but doesn't. Do I have to consider that I'll always be having a monthly payment into the game? Or
I look at it. I thought it was a one-off payment. Like I think you buy a vehicle, you buy ships, and therefore you have to, and then you can lose those ships.
I'm not sure what the payment model is, but I think that the people who are buying ships now are really they're investing in the game.
Yeah,
that's really how it's kind of got to be perceived. You know.
Yeah.
And I think on day one that means that they'll start with a hangar with all of those ships in it. Yeah, nice. But I'm not sure. I don't think there's going to be monthly fees or anything like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you see at the same event actually the Elite Dangerous stuff that they announced?
No. What did they announced?
There's quite a few things.
Oh, actually, I did hear
fighters.
Yeah,
launching
that's right.
fighters out of your ship.
Yeah. So I've
that's
heard
pretty
a few
cool.
Things. Yeah.
That's pretty cool because you could be a big hauler like a truck driver, right? On the outside, but on the inside you got this killer guy, that partners up with you, and he goes out with his elite fighter ship and goes in and just blows the hell out of everything. Just draw him in.
The concept of having a game that's constantly running in the background, even while you're not playing, normally it doesn't punish you. But in this one, if you say that there might be an insurance to pay, do you pay that on a regular basis? Is that going to come out of your credits? Every real time every 24 days or something. And what happens if you don't play? If you decide I'm over it, and you don't play for 6 months, and you come back,
and your insurance is run out,
and or your bank account is empty, because that was ticking away in the background.
Well, it would certainly reflect reality, wouldn't it? You leave any bank account for long enough, it'll be empty.
In Elite, it's like a one-off payment.
Yeah.
But I think it would
When
be
you
cool.
buy it, when you buy the ship, it's a payment. You
Yeah.
add it, don't you?
Yeah, it's a one-off payment. So I think it would be cool though, if they had, insurance brokers and you could swap your insurance to a dodgier guy who gives you a better rate or something or other. I think that'd be funny. So that's the type of thing that these guys would do, I'm sure.
Do we have a release date for this?
2016, but nobody believes that.
Yeah.
It's been in the making for a very long
The
time.
release date has been moved.
Do you want to try a little bit of the American honey?
It's my favorite.
So that's a good discussion about that. We should probably keep this on the radar and just keep tracking these games as they move forwards.
Yeah, we almost need to create a shoot off the home mind map for Space Sims, and then put all three as subclouds maybe in that same one. I don't know.
So we've got a gaming one. We've got these
yeah.
two guys here. So we'll probably build another one over here with Star Citizen in it.
So we don't know when that's released. 2017?
No, they reckon 2016
Bullshit.
for Squadron 42. Yes, but I don't think anybody believes it's going to come out. I'm pretty sure that's what they said. It's going to push into 2017.
That's one of the things that happens when the money just keeps coming.
But another good thing is I think that sort of development, they keep a little bit behind. That's the secret stuff that they keep secret. They're very open with the ships and whether you can curl your mustache or not and all of the game mechanics. But the actual the Squadron 42, they're a bit secretive about it.
Well, I shall be partaking in the Squadron 42.
Okay. But this game, here's another point. How much will this game cost you, Dave? Right. How much will this game cost you? And I'll give you a hint. It might cost you $2,500. And this is not buying a virtual spaceship. This is buying a fair income for reals piece of hardware kit to run the damn thing.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah. So
I get it.
we're talking like next gen. This is a pretty serious thing. You don't run this game on a potato, right?
So like inline 1070s or something.
Look, I don't know. You can probably look up online and find people who are speccing out stuff, but I don't think it's going to be a. You might actually have to buy a PC to run the game, a specific PC to run the game on.
Imagine what you're going to have to buy if you want to run it VR.
Yes, and you'll have to. Yeah, you might even have to buy another PC as well as the VR kit.
And that's crazy. That's crazy. But it's sort of where we started out with PCs, didn't we? With home computers. I believe one of the reasons they took off in a home sense, because certainly most home PCs were being used for games, right? And the reason PCs took off is that you could get in and put a better sound card in it, better graphics card in it, more RAM. That bred a generation of PC tweakers that we could take the cover off and actually get, because we have to, because of the new Wing Commander game or the new so the software drove the hardware, and then the hardware sort of overtook the software, and then they, and it's been this the whole way. Well, now it's ridiculous level of hardware to play games the way they want us to play them. It is an investment. Sometimes 2,000. I think you might be right.
Yeah.
It's necessary, essentially, if you want to make a game that you anticipate runs for the next 10 years and keeps people interesting, is that you build it for tomorrow's technology and not for on yesterday's game engine.
Yeah.
So it has to drive. It's a necessity. We looked at Second Life a few minutes ago and just at the graphics, and this is probably still running on the same game engine that it started on in 2003. And we talked about World of Tanks, and that's running on a game engine that was developed in the late 90s, the Big World engine.
Yeah.
And they've changed it and they've improved it, and the looks is great. But if you plan for this game to be going and keeping people entertained for until the mid 2020s,
because they have to get it. They have to get about at least a 6 years worth of seasons out of this release. Yeah.
To do what?
Before it's a total rebuild, like a back to the drawing boards, new iteration, or do you just keep going? Do you just keep
it's
going?
very dangerous to move across.
Yeah.
Just past experience, I think you tend to stay unless you do a total version 2.0. You know, make a totally new game on a totally new platform.
Take advantage of new tech, new game engine tech or something.
You'd end the old one though.
Yeah.
Or you know,
because it would all come down to making money, wouldn't it? Which is marketing.
Well, this is what I was just thinking about then. To do what? You know, is Star Citizen going to be about making money? Because they've already made $140 million.
Yeah, but that's got
they've already made the money.
No, but they're spending that like you wouldn't believe.
It's a different kind of game. You look at Wing Commander, right?
Yeah.
And then Wing Commander 2, and there's new ones, and or PlayStation, new game on the new PlayStation 4, and so on. You make a new version of a game that was big hit. And because you know the fans have played that one and it's over, and now you want to get them in, and is Wing Commander the next one, but with fantastic graphics.
Yeah. This
kind of game where you make yourself a second reality and you invest, it's not the kind of game that ends. It's not the game that you
don't want it to
No,
win.
you don't want it. And you don't want to move over to version 2.0 because it's got better graphics.
Yeah.
Because, you know, this old one has all my shit in it.
And a bunch of your mates are stuck in the old one.
Yeah, so it's I don't think this is going to be, this has to be just upgradable on the fly.
It's world building, not game building.
I think they said they wanted a 10-year lifespan or something or other.
10 years?
Once it kicks off. Yeah.
That's a pretty good investment then.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get 10 years worth of sales out of what is probably a high-end AAA budget up front. But, I mean, they'll have to keep spending in development, won't they?
And maintenance. They have to pay for the servers.
The servers,
for example.
A lot of the maintenance is just keeping the game interesting.
Right.
You know, coming with new missions, new planets, new cities, just more of the same.
So what do you think of this model that we're starting to see now where you buy a game and then 12 months later you pay for a season? You keep buying these seasons. I even get seasons for Leanne. She's into the Legos games, and you can buy seasons for those. And included in the seasons are new levels, new stuff. Lego World, that's okay. It's acceptable. It's almost like a new game. But in Elite Dangerous, you're literally paying for development they haven't developed yet up front. You have to pay for the season first, and then they slowly drip feed you the development that they've promised. So far, they've delivered it. So, some of it has not worked very well, and we've discussed it in the past. But what do you think of that model, that seasoned, where you're paying for a season of development that doesn't exist yet?
It's really the same model as the pre-order model, where you buy something that doesn't exist, and then they'll go and make it after you bought it. And that gets a lot of backlash, and a lot of people are very passionate about saying, no, do not do this. Do not give them money.
Especially with the Elite Dangerous family, a lot of them are saying the same thing, that we don't want to foot the bill for something that you might cock up.
So is this something everybody needs to agree to? Like, if I don't want to pay for the season, I can't play the game?
No, you can still play, but you don't have all of the things that season provides. So you're still flying around in the universe with the ships that
somebody can land on a planet.
No, you won't be able to, no.
Right.
And if you think about it, that's what they did is they invented the tech to land on the planet, and then they're essentially selling that as a sort of a module of the game.
Yeah. And the shared cockpit.
But I think they're moving away from that because there's been a bit of a backlash from the community, and there's some issues with it that are not helpful, and that is if my best mate Dave hasn't got that and can't afford that, and Tom does, and they want to have a cool gameplay experience, but they're not at the same level, that's a bit of a killjoy. And, well, we could just pop over to Call of Duty, couldn't we? We could both run around in the maps there and shoot each other or whatever.
The attention span is not long enough to give people that opportunity. They'll leave. Yeah, you're right.
It's very tricky. If you want to introduce something game-breaking, game-changing in the literal sense of the word, you want to suddenly introduce, that people can land on planets which you couldn't do before.
Yeah.
That costs a lot of money of research. And for the team, the game developers, to invest into that, they need to maybe get the funding somehow.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it just means that you have to. It's your choice. You can choose that you're not interested in that new tech, and you can still play missions.
Yeah.
Or you can be one of the people who wants to invest a bit and get a bit more out of it. I think it's a good idea.
I know a lot of people that sort of report on Star Citizen. They're very clear that a lot of them are very clear that this is an investment. They're putting money into as like investors.
Yeah.
Where they're not they're supporting the game with
and the
their
return
money
on the investment is
will
fun.
be fun later on. Yeah.
Imagine that as a marketing speech to a room full of potential investors. You're going to give me money.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm going to give you?
A 50% return in fun.
And giggles.
Yes, right. If you took that money and spent it anywhere else, you would not get as much fun
Absolutely.
as spending it with us.
Tell your friends. Bring your friends and family. We want all of your money, and then you can all share the fun, which makes it funner.
Yes. No, that's kind of true, isn't it?
It's a virtual commodity.
Yeah. It's an absolute virtual commodity. I was blown away when I found out that someone was spending thousands of dollars for one ship.
Yeah. Well,
in Star
as I was
Citizen.
saying, it was news articles about Second Life. People spending not $10,000 but $20,000 on 650 polygons and a 256 by 256 8-bit textures plastered everywhere.
It's crazy.
If you calculate how many hours you spend on these games, and if you put a money value to the time that you sink in it, then the few $1,000s that you spend on spaceships pales in comparison to the time that sink into that game.
Yeah. And
potentially, if you're spending that much time in it, you're having fun. So potentially, you're getting months of fun for what is then considered a measly investment.
Yeah.
$2,000 for months of fun.
it's all very uncharted, isn't it?
Mm.
Like, it's all very new. And to pay for a leisure experience like that, and for it to be for there to be no end point, you know what I mean? Like, you go out for a drink, they're going to close the bar at 3:00. You go to a picture, they roll the credits, you're out of there. This is this open-ended thing, and it just keeps going as long as you want it to go for.
Season pass to the movies. You just turn up anytime you want and go and watch a film.
Allow me to indulge you, gentlemen. Let me pop this up here.
Aha.
Yes.
Aha.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I don't want to steal your thunder, and I'm not going to steal your thunder, but what I'm seeing is what I suspect is loads of geeky nerds with blue tack, chewing gum,
Well,
and
I'd be willing
glue.
to agree that most of these products started that way.
okay.
But everything you're seeing here is actually commercial product. And what I
What,
want to...
even that ugly
Everything.
stuck together.
Everything, absolutely. Most of the...
Is that blue what I think it is? That's just like a... Look, I'm stealing your thunder. Go for it, dude. Sorry, man.
No, say it.
Well, it looks like
3D printed?
3D printed blue framework where you stick your own cameras in.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. So what I wanted to bring up was 360. Not virtual...
that's the Litro camera right there.
Yeah.
The 360 Litro.
Yeah.
Second row from the top. Yeah.
This, I'm going to start off using Jason Fletcher's brilliant work on this article at the site The Full Dome Blog, which is a great site. I went through it a couple of times now, really going through some of the articles. Fantastic stuff. To find it all in one place is great. And this is a true appreciation of the tech, as opposed to about 50 other sites that might look like this that are actually these people, the people that own this bit of tech,
Trying to sell it or something.
well, they're writing an article that points to their product being really cool. This is more an enthusiast.
Yep.
Right, but very professionally done. So I'm going to use it as a reference point, jumping off point. So what we're talking about, and we love to talk about things that are about to sort of rock the world as far as new tech, new directions. And the one that really interests me is 360 video. Now, some people call it VR, virtual reality. It's not VR. It's virtual reality is that it's an unreal world. It's an unreal reality that you can walk around in, that you can look behind a tree. You can't do that with this. This is movie making with cameras that point in every direction, so that you can turn around on a node. Yeah, or you can travel on rails, right? You could be in a vehicle or something like that, but ultimately it's already been shot. You don't get a choice of how this thing, you don't get a choice of your perspective of this world. And so virtual reality, you do. You can walk, you can move around in it. Yeah. This is...
you can look around, but you can't move around.
well, that's right.
Yeah.
Not not by your own volition.
Yeah.
You're a passive observer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason why I wanted to bring it up is, and the big question that I want to pose as we work through it is, what does this mean for filmmakers? What does this mean for guys like us, that are periphery, or not periphery, but compartmentalized in the film industry? Where is this taking us? What does it mean in relation to narrative creativity? Yeah. But I wanted to start out by showing you this array of devices, and I have to tell you, gentlemen, that billions of dollars are being spent at the moment on this stuff. Billions of dollars. I went to Sydney to that two-day event, two-day event, which was a virtual. It's the one you put me onto. It was a 2-day 360 video event about what happens is you use one of these devices to shoot different directions, and then eventually someone has to stitch that together. Now, some of these devices offer the software that sort of mongrels it into place, and it does a pretty good job. But it's certainly not our level. You wouldn't be able to do it feature. You certainly probably would struggle to do anything HD, let alone 4K and above, by using those software things. So generally, people have to. You need man hours to stitch that stuff together, and then there's this whole process of stereoscopic, and we'll have a look at it.
So really, at the moment, it's just 12 cameras glued onto a stick.
That's where I wanted to start it, because we've moved a lot, right? Now, this is a comparison of 360 video rig categories, right? So we've got, these are 360 video rig here with a coverage of 360 by 180. So it's 180 from ground to ceiling, which is, you can't get any better than that. So then we have some variations. That's the same as the first, but it's stereoscopic.
Right.
Then we have a partial 360 rig. So generally 360, but it's not a 180. It's not a true 180. So that can either be slightly above with a hole in the bottom of the stitch in the video, or the opposite. Or you can settle in the middle and have a little hole at the top and the bottom. But either way, it's not a full 180. Cylindrical is just a wrap. So you've got a big hole at the top and the bottom. Okay. And it's a 120 degrees sort of from the viewing position. Cylindrical stereo. Then you've got parabolic mirror. Now, this will make sense when I show you the bit of equipment that actually creates it, where you literally film a mirror, and the mirror is parabolic, and it captures. It sort of distorts the image for you when you capture it. Yeah. And then there's the fisheye, which is 360 by 110. Fisheye lenses do range. I know that there's a film I'm going to show you in a little while. Not that I won't show you the film, but I'll show you of it and skip through a couple of frames. I think they shot it with reds in an array, red cameras in an array, but they had to go out and find a fisheye lens that would do the job, and what they had to do was find an out-of-date, no longer manufactured fisheye lens that was, it does like, it nearly does 180 degrees. It's this incredible fisheye lens. It's an old Canon one, and they use Canon mounts on the reds. I believe that's the story, but I'll touch on that later. And then, of course, this is the stereoscopic version of this. So basically, this is what a flattened spherical map looks like, and that's what we're talking about. When you film 360 video, everything in the shot is mapped to the inside of a sphere. Okay, there's no parallax because you're at a fixed point in space, so there can't be. There's no parallax at all. Everything is sort of projected on the inside of this sphere. Cool. You only get parallax when you transition left, right, up, down, front, back. Yeah. So generally you have to film and then stitch it together in such a way that you can wrap it on the inside of a sphere and then have the viewer stand right in the center of that sphere and look through a virtual set of goggles at the world. And what they see at any given time is usually at most 1080p. You've got to be doing some special data sets to be doing bigger than 1080p, and I'll get to that shortly. So that's the challenge, is to film like this. And we'll get to, I'll mention in a minute, what this poses as a problem for the narrative form. Because you're filming in every direction to tell a story. All right. So let's come down here a little bit. We've got multi-camera rigs. Now, you were quite right. This array here can easily be 3D printed, but it takes a very, very small discrepancy before the stitching becomes a nightmare. So you'll find that the 3D printed ones, unless they're extremely accurate 3D printers, they're best avoided. But obviously you can get into it at the very late. I mean, we're talking GoPros here, and they have to be Hero Blacks because they have to be 4K. Yeah, and only the Heroes will do the 4K. And I'll get to why they have to be 4K, right?
That one doesn't look like you can calibrate it. It just looks like you stick the cameras in and
shoot.
In theory, they're all pointing in the right direction.
Absolutely, yeah.
These
are real. This is really rigid. It's probably metal on this one, but yeah, the 3D versions can be a bit flimsy, and also minute discrepancies, and you're in trouble. So these are all the sorts of multi-camera mounts. This is a GoPro 6. These are all legitimate products that you can source, buy, they're available. A lot of these multi-camera ones pretty much look the same. The idea here is to come up with a design so that the film back, the sensor in the camera, is as close to the same point in 3D space as all the other cameras. And that's why it's a bit of a challenge to come up with a design to get them to all fit in, but bring those sensors as close as possible to one point in space. Yeah? So, there's underwater variations, and then we start to get into some... this is a 10-camera rig offering 360. The more cameras you have, the less distortion you have to deal with in the stitching process because they overlap more.
Well, presumably you can have a higher focal range length lens.
Yes, and resolution as well. You can find the happy medium in between resolution and stitching. And then play with the settings within those confines. So a lot of them. I think the minimum is 2. You can actually get a 2-camera rig. This is one here, 2 GoPros. They offer, and these have fittings. See these here? These are fisheye lens fittings. Notice the camera we're being recorded in has a lens cover. That just came with that outer shield cover that I brought, but it's similar. It just locks on and provides fisheye. Cool. So you got 2 fisheyes back to back, and it offers 360. 180, right? So that's probably the cheapest you'll get is 2 GoPros like this, to that quality if they were Hero 4s. So we start to come down, and there's lots of variations. We start to get DSLR versions. Notice they're still trying to struggle. The bigger the camera, the harder it is to get all of them to that one fixed place in space. And when you don't get them close enough, you have to do all sorts of weird things in post. The stitching process, you have to judge that offset and get it absolutely millimeter perfect. But once you do it, you can lock it in and you can go out and shoot with that rig over and over again. And so here we've got 2 fisheyes back to back, 4K. We're starting to see this is Kodak, right? Samsung. There's some big players playing in this space at the moment. Yeah. So we're still looking at multi-camera rigs, and when we come down to these single camera bodies, right? So what you're talking about here is it's one camera with multiple lenses, all feeding their image into the same processing unit in the middle.
So we're starting to get into a purpose-made product rather than a rig.
Yes, absolutely.
That's presumably auto-stitching already.
And yes, the software usually comes with it because it's been so well calibrated. The unknown variables get removed, and yes, the stitching becomes a lot more easier, provided you can get the resolution. And so when you enter into this world, you have to pay big dollars to make sure you get their resolution, and they do start to get bigger with that resolution and there's heat. Heat is a problem. There's a bunch of things, but yeah, you're starting to see these little tiny cams, these little sort of hand, like fit in the palm of your hand, bubble cams and things like that with multiple lenses all leading to the one processor. This is a single camera, fisheye back to back, stick it on a tripod. Pretty cool.
That looks ridiculous.
It looks absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, the camera's got 2 lenses, one on either side. It's like, what crazy person invented that?
Nikon.
Yeah.
So big players, man.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah. So these are all, and these ones here, you've got a lens on the back as well. And so they're all fisheye, right? They're all pretty much fisheye lenses. So we come down. Most of them pretty much do the same thing. Some beautiful designs, some stunning looking designs. And these are stereoscopic. So you can imagine the ones we saw at the top ramped up. There's some crazy shit going on
It's
here.
just like, when a Rubik's Cube goes wrong, it's like
12 GoPros. Do you know how much that would cost? Well, we're probably paying about $500 for a GoPro Black at the moment. So, yeah, do the math. It's a pretty expensive exercise.
I will now predict that within next 10 years we will probably have Google Street View in VR.
Yeah.
Where we don't have to jump from image to image anymore, but we can smoothly go through it and see everything in stereo.
Absolutely. And stalk whoever you want in virtual space in real time. It's pretty crazy, huh? So look at these stuff. These stereo rigs are pretty intense. But they sort of explain what's going on pretty simply. So a lot of this tech is from the top. It's just rolled into stereo. Look at that.
That looks like it.
It's
Those
gonna-
are red.
They're dragons, mate.
Holy
bloody
Jesus.
tank to just move that thing.
Yeah, that's
It
right.
would weigh a ton, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And if you dropped it,
Yep. Huh?
what each one is worth $50,000?
Well, they're dragons. Dragons are worth.
Yeah, if it's a red.
I think dragons
It's
are
an
worth
Epic?
close to 50.
Yeah.
The Epic is the one we've got is like top of the slate. But that's an investment. I've got a feeling this is similar, except not stereo. I'm going to have a look into it.
No, it does
that's
because
stereo.
they're two.
Parallel.
No, I mean
parallel.
that film that I was talking about earlier. They shot with reds, but I don't know whether they shot stereo. I'm not sure.
okay.
They might have. They were backed. They were funded. Right? There's people. There's studio money going into this stuff at the moment. They want to develop the pipeline. They want to develop the tech to support. That's what I wanted to discuss with you guys. I'm just going through the tech here for a sec, but I want to discuss with you guys what are we talking about here? Because this is major. How the hell do you do dailies when it's a 360 piece of footage? How do you direct? What about the clouds? What are you doing with this? There's so many questions, and I want to know, is this a fad?
Well,
I've seen fads spend money like this before.
is 3D a fad?
Stereo.
Just
It's
regular
I'm gonna
3D.
I'm gonna finish up with that because I've got a site that I go to. It's called Real versus 3D, and basically this guy swears by. He does the research. He goes into the production, documentation, and everything to try to find out, did they shoot this film 3D? Some of them publicise it. Others they don't say it until someone asks them, sort of thing. And so what I'm seeing is not only there's a massive reduction in films being shot 3D stereoscopically, but we're also seeing a reduction in films being stereoscopically converted. That means both ends of the spectrum are shrinking. Yet every man and his dog just went and bought a 3D telly. We bought the telly because the media was being released. If they're not making the media anymore, then it could go the way of the fad.
It's lasted so much longer than I would have thought.
Same here.
I thought this is going to be over in 2-3 years because nobody's going to be interested. And it's been going on for 10.
It's been lingering. It hasn't been like sort of, well, from my perspective, it hasn't been like rocketing off.
Yeah.
It's just been sort of hovering around.
Yeah. The way I look at it is 3D tech at the moment has got two ends of the spectrum as far as what can be sitting in your lounge room. One, you're watching what the director wanted you to watch, that they went out there and shot with stereo rigs, and they directed it properly, knowing that you're going to have goggles on and you don't want to be sick, and you know the way they frame it and everything, right? That's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is this cobbled together piece of shit that uses the low end domestic tech to play it, but also they filmed it the wrong way. Its conversion is shit, right? I think too much has been squished down here, and it needed to be. It's like surround sound. You know how you get the pseudo surround sound, and then you get the real surround sound, which is real surround sound is like DSP. It started as DSP, digital surround field processing, where they went into church halls in Vienna and they went all over the world and they recorded the spaces and they put that on a chip.
Mm-hmm.
And that chip was made to a standard, right? The Dolby standard. And then when people made films, they made them to those standards. It's the same with 3D. When you make a 3D film, you're making it to a standard. The color, there's so much about it. But when you buy a television, most of the time, something has to give. Now, if you've got passive glasses, resolution goes out the window straight away because you have to halve the field rate for every frame, so you lose half the resolution. Gone. Mm-hmm. The active stuff is good, but the color representation is shit. Right? You have to pay the money. If you pay the money, the experience is unbelievable. And I defy anyone to watch Avatar or Hugo that has been shot deliberately for 3D to be shown. I mean, Cameron released tech to the cinemas. Like he wouldn't let you play his film unless there were certain minimums maintained. Mm-hmm. Off that, an entire culture was born, but too much went to the cheap end. The jalopy, the carny end, the charlatan snake peddler end. It wasn't real. It wasn't real 3D. So I think it's died a bit of a death. And we need another Avatar, otherwise we're in trouble. Because I love it. I love 3D. When I watch a film that's shot 3D, like any 3D animated film is 3D because they just create a second camera, and but they don't all look equal. Like I watched Kung Fu Panda recently, which was 3D. It was definitely not directed 3D. Like it made you sick.
Yeah.
They didn't. The focal point kept jumping around, and there's a way to shoot 3D. But okay, let's come back here. We're starting to get into some pretty impressive rigs here. This one is, do we get into a new... I know we're still in stereo rigs, right? Look at that thing.
That one is the Death Star.
That is crazy.
From space.
At least you don't have to carry that one. You can just roll it.
Nice design here. Let's go with a brick. So now we're looking at stereoscopic single camera bodies. Look at that thing. Love it. So this is stereoscopic single camera. So all of those lenses are going back to one brain.
Right. This has obviously got to be the future of how these things work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
and then it's already stitching the image together for you.
In the output.
Yeah.
Yeah. The transcoding would stitch it. Still not sure what this thing is. Don't really know what that is. The Vuse. I've seen this one before. This one here, they stick on a beach. I remember seeing an ad for it. They stuck it on a beach, and then a guy was on the beach, but on the other side of the country. So around and whatever. One of these here, not sure which one. We start to talk about sound as well. Not stereo sound, 360 sound. So you record with directional microphones. So a lot of these devices, and I think it's one of these ones here, where the microphone actually records directional. So when you go like this, the sound actually works.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it works perfectly for you. Look at that thing. So, scuba. Some cool looking rigs. Look at that thing. Holy shit. Invisible drones. So drones, they're unlucky because carrying 4 GoPros is a bit heavy. You have to generally use these fisheye rigs or very light single rigs, single processor rigs. Drones will become more powerful. Look at that thing. That looks like a purpose-built drone wrapped around the rig.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's awesome. Love that. So, this is first-person POV rigs. Look at that.
Holy dooly. That's that thing that Darth Vader was in.
That's not cumbersome and obtrusive.
You have to eat through a straw.
So, video rigs, broadcast rigs, that I think this is one that you tend to print, but I think you can buy it, but I think a lot of people print their own. Okay, these are these, where is it? Let me come down to cylindrical rigs. Notice the GoPros tend to be turned on their end, and then you get maximum widescreen coverage top to bottom, and a lot of them do it that way. Mirrors, they use mirrors as well, so you can see the cameras are also pointing up.
Interesting.
Yep. And the goal is always to get one of these. Right? So that's pretty much what you're trying to capture. You're trying to capture 300. You notice on the left-hand side of the extreme left of the screen, you've got AX, and over here you've got IM, and it perfectly match. It's an IMAX thing, and it perfectly matches. This one's pretty nice, actually. So that's the goal when we go through these pieces of equipment. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, but ultimately their goal is to create a 360-degree spherical image. Okay, these are parabolic mirror rigs. So essentially, you film a mirror that's bent, and that gives you the image. This one looks pretty cool, huh? And obviously, one of the downsides to this is the other side. Like if you film the top of this, you're not filming what's behind this. Some of them do, though. They work some magic where a percentage of the shot goes through a hole, and they're actually filming what's behind it through a hole, and then they get the rest of it here. Yeah.
So this is just an attachment, is it?
Yeah.
For normal DSLR.
Yep. Absolutely. Just stands on a tripod, it faces up. This would give you have to choose where you want the hole, whether you want it in the sky or on the floor. You know what I mean? Because there's definitely going to be a hole. 115 degrees, there's definitely a hole.
Whereas a hole in one area and opposite is a huge, big freaking lens.
Yeah.
Because you film your own camera there.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you've got to sort of get rid of the camera as well. So there's quite a few of these, and I've got a feeling these have got a little bit more time on the market than some of the new stuff that's popped up. And there's quite a few solutions in that parabolic. This looks like
It's
like a
it's a blender, isn't it? Like, what are you doing?
Making lunch.
It's some crazy shit. And then you've got attachments for mobile phones.
Fantastic.
Yeah, this looks pretty cool. And this could be a good solution for HDR or at least reference images of locations and things like that. It could be pretty cool, especially if it's an attachment. Remote light fields.
That's the Litro camera. That's that exciting thing that that's the new one. The old one is a camera which is like a big suitcase in size with a sensor which is 60 centimeters across. Oh, it's 60 centimeters
It's
diameter.
7 foot long.
So the camera is huge, but the beauty of those is that they will actually film stereo parallax.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
you will have a certain area in which you can see parallax distortion, parallax changes in the image.
It's a game changer. Litro is a game changer. We'll definitely talk about Litro as a major sort of individual topic, I reckon, because where it's going is
That'll broadcast the next Soccer World Cup off the field.
I like it. 36 sensors. So these are single camera body. Multiple sensors. So you've got multiple sensors, single unit, multiple sensors, multiple lenses. Pokemon. Cool. So what we're looking at there is some pretty crazy shit.
Now that is either a geek or a nerd.
Especially playing the harmonica while she's
probably
filming.
Now, off the top of your head, when do you
No pun
think
intended.
mankind was starting to look at 360 video, 360 film? Give me a decade.
If the cameras didn't look modern, I would say, this kind of rig you could have done, Edward Muybridge could have done this, in the early 1900s.
So, what's your guess? Lock it in, Eddie.
for 360 video or images?
Movies. Film.
360
Film.
movies.
360 film.
So you're asking, when was it first attempted?
Yes. When did we,
As a serious endeavor.
as a human endeavor, when do you think we started playing with this stuff?
You'd be surprised.
I was surprised when I saw it.
You know, the first film ever made was developed for color, of course. The first film invented was color, because why would you start with black and white? Stereo was done right from the outset as well. So I wouldn't be surprised.
The Cinerama.
Okay, you trumped me, but I was going to guess 1900s, either before the First World War or afterwards.
I'd say from the outset, as soon as people had cameras, they were trying all different kinds of things.
No, that's the general rule. As soon as people got cameras, they started doing weird stuff with them. Geeks started friggin' they'd film a mirror, in the field of view, and then somebody off screen would be doing something in the mirror, and you've got some special crazy effects going on.
So this is some of the tech. Did you see the cameras here down here?
Is this
So this is all projected around here.
This is a hot air balloon.
Well, the hot air balloon I think is for effect. Like it's meant to sell the experience that you're floating over this thing.
Okay, cool.
And this is the tech. Yeah.
Okay, but how do you view it?
The inside
it's being projected onto.
Oh, right.
So you can
hang on. What are those? Those are projectors or cameras? They're projectors.
They're projectors. Yeah.
Right,
See the film going through, and so it projects out through the holes here onto some sort of surface.
Oh, right. So see, there's the cylinder down the. So this is the film. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm getting that.
1900, wasn't it?
Does this thing?
1900 Paris exposition, and this is
Cinerama.
Look at that, man. That's 1901. Look at that.
Wow.
Is that not?
That is.
That.
That is. It's probably.
I was blown away when I saw that.
It's much more impressive back then because
Absolutely.
you wouldn't go to Pompeii or Rome or anything. You can just go to Paris and just watch the street life in a different country.
Absolutely. Look at the rig.
Yeah.
How similar does that look to some of the rigs? If you take the composite materials out, replace them with, or add composite materials where aluminium or tin or metal was used here, but essentially it's doing they're using mirrors. That's a mirror rig.
Yeah.
How sick is that?
That's crazy.
It is. That's it there in the flesh.
The hardest job was probably synchronizing all those cameras to play at the same.
I'm thinking how to
play the same frame at the same time.
And when you say stitching the image together, you're probably talking about a much more literal thing than a digital thing.
Yeah,
right? This is
like what we do with the Enlightened Festival. You project onto a wall, you arrange your cameras so that they sort of slightly overlap, and
the stitching is real time on the wall.
Can be prepared, but then you have to get the thing going.
Yeah,
you have a certain length for which the film runs through, and then you have to change the magazine, and then you have to get everything running again at the same frame.
The calibration process would be just incredible, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But they were smarter when it came to mechanics and ingenuity, I reckon. We've got a bit lazy. Well, the John Q. Citizen got a bit lazy. You know what I mean? Most guys walking around had a trade. They were fitter and turner. They were plumber, mechanic. They did something.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the 1900s. Aeroplanes are being invented. Cars are being invented.
Yeah.
Submarines are being invented.
Yeah.
Panorama photography is being invented. It's a lot like today in a lot of ways, really, isn't it?
And there's a lot of theories. The most common being the train, like the ability to travel long distances in a very short amount of time. Steam power.
And that in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Industrial Revolution kicks everything
off. It was a quickening, it was sort of building to that point. And they just took advantage of it at the right time. Yeah. It's fascinating stuff. So these are, I won't go through these in detail, but these are sort of a different array of, some of them are common, but you'll see some here that are unique to that one. And that's 6 months difference in the two articles. This is from June. The other one was from July, January. Sorry. And so there's a couple here that are in the other one. You can walk into JB right now and buy that. We've got a student actually in the first year, and I'm teaching guys how to do HDR images, or at least reference images and stuff like that. And he approached us at the end of the lecture last week to inform us that I think he works at JB, so he's got a good price. A bunch of them have chipped in, and they're buying a job lot of these things. They come in 4K. So it's a 360 camera. It doesn't miss anything. Like that's what they're bragging. It's the 360 camera that misses nothing. There must be a lens on the bottom. I've never seen both sides of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can walk into JB tomorrow and get this at 4K. And I think it's pre-stitched. Like I think it transcodes out stitched.
Right.
It should, if it's pre-assembled like that. Yeah.
Can I just do another highlight back to 1900? You know the Wright brothers?
Yes.
They're bicycle repairman,
Yeah.
right? They work in a bicycle shop.
And in theory, they did build a bike to start with, and then they realised the bike was too heavy.
Well, this is the sort of thing, is that they're cobbling together, and we're seeing the same thing here, right? Yeah. Where, some guy who works at JB Hi-Fi knows he can buy these things, and he can stick them all together in a weird way, and then something crazy happens. Anyway, yeah, it's awesome.
This thing's cool. So, yeah, there's some big players. I didn't even know Kodak still existed. I was so convinced that Kodak went belly up because they tried to flog the film thing way longer than they should have and never got on board digital. But they're still around. They're making cameras. So where not to stick your GoPro rig?
Okay.
Real time. Oh. What's you try and get it?
Yeah, catch it. No.
Now, look at this. $5,000 reward. You can keep your money, mate.
Oh, 500. Yeah. That's epic. Well, it's empty.
I love that the lens covers just pop off.
He lost half his oxygen worth of tank just there in one gasp.
He would have been so dirty. Because you're talking about incredible jaw pressure, and that's a big shark as well.
And the sharks are like, no.
So that's where you don't stick your camera. But if you stick it in the right place and you've got a good idea, like Justin
Wouldn't it
Lin.
be cool if they had the film of that, actually.
Yeah.
The film of that would be amazing.
Who's swimming down to get the camera? I went through all those emotions when I first, like those same thoughts and emotions when I first saw it. Mm-hmm. It's like, I get it. No, don't get it. Oh, no, now we can't get it. So, yes, Justin Lin created Help, which is a 3D short film, or not a 3D short film. It's, at least I don't think it's 3D, but it's a 360 film in collaboration with Google, I believe. Partnered up with Google. And it's pretty impressive. Where is it? Let me just play a couple of little sections of it. Oh no, we can leave it a little bit sound in. So, all right, so we've got some meteor storm, potentially off-worldly. Oh. So we're on rails, right? So we're traveling through this narrative on rails, but we get to look anywhere we want. And as soon as you start to see this for the first time, and I want you guys to watch this when you go home, sit down at some point in the next couple of days, watch it, and you'll start to realize the problems that you would run into trying to film this shit. Getting people to look in the right direction. Yeah. So if we play on here a little bit.
Especially if you don't have headphones where sound cues could direct you into
Absolutely.
the right direction.
Yeah. So we've got, and we can do that, right? She's sneaking over. There's something in the hole. Oh, it's coming up. Okay. So something's going on. Now I'm going to point this way and mute it. Where do I look? Where am I looking? Oh, something just flashed in front of me. Where did it go? Is that... Oh, there it is. Okay, I'll look at it. Now, I don't know whether I should keep looking at it or not. Is there anything else happening? I mean, it's interesting, so I'll keep looking at it. And it ran that way. So, essentially, I just don't know where to look. So we must have sound. Otherwise, it becomes incredibly challenging to get me to. So we're running away from it. What's in front of us, though? Okay, so look, that's locked. How would I would have missed all that. And now on rails, if I had stayed looking at the monster, I'm now backpedaling out the door, and I don't know that I've just jumped out of the door. And so this is certainly not a critique of the filmmakers. It's not even a real critique. It's just an observation. So they spent some money on this. Let's just have a quick look at... Just come over to YouTube here for a sec. And let's have a look at who was involved. Down here. The Mill. Yeah. So they didn't muck around. They had a full crew. That is a good crew of people involved in that. You've got software leads, so people are writing tools, writing software. And yeah, they didn't muck around at all with this production. So I'm going to try to dig out a lot more information about it, and we'll maybe focus on it a little more in depth down the track. But I definitely don't want to keep playing it. Things like this, like notice the camera's low to the ground, the 3D view, the pinching and the skewing and the things that happen in that 3D space, they tend to get magnified when you get close to the ground, because the perspective sort of does weird things. Yeah, so this will be the last thing, and this thing spun me out a little bit. So this is a marketing video that Disney created to advertise Jungle Book. Now, this is called Through Mowgli's Eyes. And I started watching this and then started freaking out, because, especially when I heard that, there's something going on.
Flying away.
Yeah.
In the direction that you're not, away from the direction that you're not looking.
and I don't know which way to look. I just saw some movement here, right? So I'm seeing a snake, but I can't see the head of the snake. Where the hell is this snake? And now it's talking to me. There it is.
Oh no, don't be scared. I'm not gonna hurt
So I
you.
can look anywhere I want, but I can't run. This is a big snake and I can't run. It's a very uneasy feeling, because I can look around. It's like...
yeah. It's like you're tied to your seat or something or other.
With me if you want. I'll keep you close. Let go of your fear now. Trust in me.
A little dodgy. The animation was a little dodgy
slow, yeah.
at the end there. But I thought that was a good contrasting thing. Like, there's some advantages there. That's spooky. I mean, imagine a real horror shot that same way, where you're sort of trapped. You can't run.
And you don't have a reprieve either. There's no cutting away to something else that's happening. All these shots are, of course, out of necessity, continuous. And I would argue that probably the single most important tool that the filmmaker has of telling a story is the ability to edit.
Absolutely.
The fact that you can not just direct your viewer's view with line of action and with perspective and color and light and just the placement of objects, you can certainly direct where in the frame people want to watch. But the edit, jumping from one area to another is extremely powerful tool that the filmmaker has in order to control what you're feeling.
I'm seeing...
and they're totally losing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, editing, we developed an editing sensibility to narrative storytelling over 100 years. And jump cuts and fades to black. And there's these things that we developed to relate a passage of time. when there's a serious conversation happening, do I want to see the person saying it or the person hearing it? Because if
Totally
it's-
different story. Depending on who you want.
Absolutely. And so what do I do as a director? Do I frame it up so I've got them both in the one shot? And the list goes on and on and on. So what I want you guys to do, if you can, is keep an eye out for stuff. And we'll retouch this in a couple of months with that passage of time in between. So don't knock yourself out to look for it. It'll come your way no matter how you look at it. And even if you try to hide from it, you won't be able to, because they're going to saturate the shit out of us soon. But I think if we can crack it, I think if we can find the holy grail there of how to do this stuff, we can offer people, young people wanting to get into this. I mean, this is a genre of film that hasn't existed, although we saw it in 1901. We really haven't. It hasn't been taken seriously, and now we've got Disney. We've got major players injecting money into this thing. They want to use it, and we need to try to breed the people that are going to be ready to use it. You know what I mean? But we've got to find the formula. How the hell do you tell a story with this shit?
Yeah. And you have to develop the tech, but then you have to develop the art that goes alongside of it.
And that's the thing, isn't it?
And I think one of the takeaway messages, at least for me at this time, is to just remember that, you're not comparing apples and oranges. You're not comparing oranges and oranges, apples and apples. This is not it's not film. It's different from film. It's a merging of film and game, Yeah. So, the way that you do things, the people have to develop the art form. One immediate thought that I have, and probably want to develop this a little bit further, is the notion of replayability. And that's the acceptance that you don't get the story in the first time, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
That's the way I was selling it to when I started teaching, and I just got interested in this virtual 360 sort of thing. I would say to my students, you're at the precipice. You're right at the birth of something that you're going to be heavily involved with. It is. And when it's a camera this big and you can stick it anywhere, and it takes full 360 at 4K, which is, it could be tomorrow we could see something like that. They might have already developed it. They just haven't worked out how to market it, and it's just sitting in a locked room somewhere. Students, if we can, I used to tell students that in your lifetime, and for the first time I can say in my lifetime too, we will be able to buy a ticket and go in and watch a movie where you're the cameraman, where you can, and I don't mean this stuff. I mean virtual, that is so photoreal that I can be the fly on the wall, I can be the Steadicam, I can stand anywhere. I can stand right in the middle of the conversation, you know what I mean? Or I can watch the whole thing from afar. That means I can watch the same film a million different times.
Starts to become
a million different ways, and see a million different stories.
I was talking with somebody, I don't know who it was, about the sort of the parallels with game, and what you have to do in a game, Star Citizen, is you have to go to planet XYZ to find out what's on planet XYZ.
Yeah.
And you're not going to know until you go there. So imagine a movie experience where there's things happening over there, there's things happening over there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't tell you that at the start, and you go and witness a conversation, or you witness something or other, and then something else happens, and then you realise, that's an important character, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to watch this again.
That's
but
right.
I'm going to have to go and find where that part of the story started.
And your best mate says, did you see that thing?
No, I haven't seen that yet.
I didn't even see that. Yeah, so now I've got to watch it because he saw it.
I'm sticking all this together in my mind.
Yeah. So the script is more about scripting a series of events. And then the viewer...
There's some sort of private eye investigator.
Just watches the events. And they can be right in the middle of it. But there's challenges. There's definitely challenges. It's a crime thriller, right? And the SWAT team kick in the doors. How do you stop the viewer walking out with the SWAT team?
You accept, this is my answer right now, is you accept that the viewer may in fact do that.
That's right.
And you've just got
to embrace it.
And the viewer has to accept that when they're watching the film,
yes,
they may do the wrong thing.
I think that's the secret. I honestly think that's a secret because I've given this a lot of thought. And the more I think about it, there is no solution. So the only solution is to stop looking for a solution.
Yeah.
It's a new medium.
Not in Kansas anymore.
It's a new medium, and people are going to miss shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We can use audio, right? But
Yeah.
there's a fine line before that becomes abusive, right? You don't want to abuse that. You need to use it sparingly and correctly. But if they miss it, that's okay.
It'd be interesting to have a story that is told from two different viewpoints, but the first time you watch it, you really just see it from the first viewpoint, like say a murder mystery.
Rashomon.
And but
The murderer and the victim.
or the police, the detective, and you see it from the detective's standpoint. But you learn enough information that the next time you watch it, you could start seeing things that from the murderer's perspective, taking his journey, reverse engineer where he was the day before. Next time you watch it, be there.
That's
when
exactly
he was,
right.
and try sort of.
That's Rashomon, right?
The choices are endless.
You know our investigation of the Oscars or whatever it is, the Academy Awards? That's Rashomon. This is exactly what the movie was doing.
Yeah.
Told the same story 3 times from 3 different perspectives, and all of the stories are different.
Yeah. Well,
But they're all the same thing.
hoodwinked.
Yeah.
Like a $40 million animated film. Brilliant narrative for that reason. That it literally, it was police questioning a bunch of witnesses and they were telling you what they saw. And all 4 or 5 stories, the way they sort of interlocked and totally different. It's interesting.
Game changer.
That's it. That's why I wanted to bring this whole thing up. So this will be a common thing that we'll come back to because I don't think we're going to avoid it. And I'd rather
watch it develop.
Yep.
And be part of it. All right. Awesome.
So that's our first show with 3 geeks in the wheelhouse. I think a success, definitely. And next time we get Tom on board, we're definitely going to spend the show looking at 80s cult sci-fi films, because I know Tom has one in mind. I've definitely got one in mind. The Last Starfighter is my 80s sci-fi.
First CG.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
The Excalibur tale, the Arthur tale.
I could probably add Tron then as my favourite.
I don't give it
Tron. So the next time we come together, which at this point we have no idea when, that's what we'll have a look at, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much, Tom, for coming along.
Thanks very much for inviting me over.
Dan, any parting words, my friend?
Well, we have to have a call to action, don't we?
Yes, I picked it last time, so maybe Tom, what do you think is a good call to action before our next show?
Stuff to research, to look into.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, you put me on the spot here.
We've damaged
Spoons
your brain.
of the 18th century.
Which
I think it's good uses, perhaps, if I can suggest one, good uses of 360 cameras.
Yeah.
And the way that they tell stories,
Absolutely.
narratives.
Yeah.
All right, so that might be it.
Very good.
And we have a sign-off that Tom invented.
Yep.
Out of necessity, only at work today. Yeah.
Yes. So, Tom, can you sign us off with the sign-off?
Save often, was it?
Save often.
Save often.
Yeah.